Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 101.79. Today I wanted to share the pleated bead technique with you guys. It is a beautiful technique and you can get really nice deep folds with the X-Acto blade here. It is the magic tool of this demonstration. And it's also a good tool to always have handy in your toolbox of magicalness. Without further ado, let's get right into this awesome little bead. And I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time in the dungeon. Okay, I'm going to start this bead out by making a very thin barrel-shaped bead, and I am going to use the Fettri Ochre Yellow. And I guess it was excited that I chose it because it just wanted to pop right off my rod and jump onto the mandrel. So it gave me a bit of a head start. So if this happens to you and you don't want to start over, just warm up the bottom half and let it melt itself around the mandrel. And you should have something close to your first footprint bead. And so from there, what I want to do is just add another wrap of this color, and I decided that I wanted this to be two-toned at the bottom, so I'm going to use this ochre yellow a little bit more. I don't want to make this bead too long either, so I'm just going to add a bit more and then go right in next to that with the bubblegum pink. And these two colors really look nice together, even though you don't really see it at the end, but it is a beautiful combination. So I'm just going to add a bit more of this pink, and that's about it. At this point, I don't want it to get too much larger, so I want to just roll it out and make sure the edges look really nice before I continue. Okay, so when I do my edges, all I do is I heat the bead up and I slowly start to taper it on one edge of the marver pad. And what's left over is a slight pucker on the end where the mandrel side is, like on the very edge. And you can go ahead and clean those up a little bit. Just be careful that you don't ruin the bead release. Okay, so now I want to add a transparent on top, which will really make these pleats stand out. And I'm using a gold ruby by Fettri, and I'm just adding a really thin layer all the way around the barrel by getting a really nice, really hot bit and swiping it kind of fast down the side of the bead. I want to keep this bead small until I start to add all my clear onto it later on. And right here, I will just go ahead and add a little extra transparent color where I need to. Sometimes when I put my swipes on, the color can be a little uneven at the top or bottom, or both areas, like this one. And I'll just go ahead and add a little bit more just to make up for that. Either way, once you get your next color on top, we want to go into our barrel-shaped bead again. Every time that we add color, we're going to, keep shaping it up into the barrel shape. I do like to use this marver pad. However, when I'm not filming, I will use my stable marvering pad that is attached to my torch so it doesn't move around all over the place on me. Okay, now that we are ready for the next step, I'm going to add some more color. I'm going to add a little spiral ribbon of the double helix Skyron, and I don't use this color very often, but I thought it would look really pretty on top of the gold pink. But either way, you will add a pattern here. You don't have to add anything here. You can just, continue on with the pleats. But if you add any more glass, then you want to get it back into that barrel-shaped bead again. There are points where you want to kind of be careful using the graphite paddle, especially when it comes to pushing your edges in from the side of the bead. You can damage your bead release, so I always try to be really careful when I am pushing in an edge or rolling the glass out. I guess what I'm saying is don't push it too hard. Just it's always, you want it always to feel soft. Okay, we are ready for our pleating pattern. So I have my razor blade ready, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial my torch in just a little bit and go ahead and heat up one edge of the bead, and then come out and stabilize it until I can press in with my razor blade. And I do press nice and deep, one good press all the way to the to where the mandrel is. I want to really press deep. And I'm doing this in 4 different spots around the bead. And then I will go back in and press down those areas that are still raised up. You can add the pleats one next to each other all the way around if you want to as well. So there are a few different techniques. I have seen people use a knife, a very thin knife too. So if you don't have a razor blade, a knife would be handy as well. A couple things to think about when I am putting in these pleats are that if my razor blade sticks to the glass, I will just stop moving for a second and maybe blow a little air on it and wiggle it free. I don't want to, try to tear it off or anything. And also, if you are pushing too much, like right here, you could push the bead off of the mandrel. So be really careful to not do that. I've done it a couple times, and it's not fun, but you just gotta, it's all in the learning process. Okay, so once I am done adding all of these pleats in here, I want to check it out, make sure it's what I like, and it looks good. All the pleats run all the way from the top down to the bottom. So now the next step is to add a little bit of transparent stringer. I'm just going to use clear here, and we are going to run the stringer right down each one of those creases. And this is really what's going to make these pleats lift up from the center of your bead. I did buy my own stringer this time. I have made so many of these, and it really became convenient for me to buy the 2 to 3 millimeter stringer, and this is the Effetri Super Clear. Again, use whatever color or clear you like the best. And their 2 to 3 millimeter stringer is just the perfect size for filling in these little creases. I'm doing my best to only heat up the stringer and not the bead underneath. And I realize that there's a little bit more clear on one side than the other, and I'm not too worried about that. I just want to heat up the clear itself a little bit and just kind of start to just kind of softly even it out at the end. I'm not really pushing hard here. I'm just trying to just gently, move it without hurting it or messing up the pattern underneath. Either way, you want to just very gently heat this clear up so it starts to get that wicking effect going from the color underneath. And on top of this, we are going to start our first encasement. So I am going to go ahead and start my swipes. I'm going to do it from all the way from one side to the other. And I'm going to heat up a nice little bit of my clear glass, as always, when I encase. and I want to heat up enough to where I know it's going to make it from one end of the bead to another. So if it's a longer bead, you might want to do this in 2 steps or get more glass hot. And then I will also, as I am putting these swipes down, I am always just slightly overlapping the last one. There's something so magical to me about the encasing of glass, you know, and the patterns underneath that can just be so interesting in glass. There's like no other material quite like it. So I am very fond of encasement. Okay, so I have my first bit down, and I am going to go ahead and start to shape this bead up into a really nice rounded barrel-shaped bead. I don't want to spend too much time on my edges because I think they look fine where the bead meets the mandrel. It just needs to be a little bit softer. So that's all I'm doing here, is just softening everything up and trying not to roll it too much. All right, so I am ready for my final encasement here. And on this last encasement, I'm not worried about going all the way from, you know, one edge of the mandrel to the other. I am just encasing the center of this bead. And this is the encasement where everything just really tends to want to pop. It's always with the second encasement. Okay, now that I'm done with all the encasement, it's looking good. At this point, it's just a matter of nice, gentle, slow heating and a little bit of time and patience. The final heating of this bead took some time. I wanted to really be careful not to overheat the inside of the bead. I wanted to spend most of my time just heating the outside and getting it into a nice round shape. So if you find that things are getting too hot too fast, then let it cool down a little bit and heat a little further out in your torch. And if you find that things aren't heating up fast enough, then bring it in a little bit, but do be careful not to go into that overheating, because that might pull in those edges too much. That's why I spend most of my time in the center and not on the ends. Anyway, we are done with this bead, and I'm just gonna cool it down so I can show you guys how it kind of looks in the flame here, and that'll be it. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time in the dungeon.